Welcome to Wisdom for the Present, where we take ancient truth and bring it into clear modern understanding. This episode uses AI-generated narration based on human-researched and written material.
Yeah.
So imagine offering your back to carry the very creature that is like biologically designed to eat you, and somehow thinking you've struck a great deal.
Right.
Today we're looking at these fragmented ancient texts that describe exactly that scenario. And I mean, they read like these hallucinogenic fables, but they are actually these ruthless manuals for surviving, toxic workplaces, manipulative people, and honestly, our own worst instincts.
They really are. And, we're looking at a collection of literal bits and pieces of translated provenance for this deep dive.
Yeah, literally fragments.
Right. And when you first scan these fragments, it feels like you've stumbled into, I don't know, a dark fantasy novel. You've got these mentions of goblins, rogues, creatures with, and I love this phrasing, sharp teeth and uneven muscles just lurking in the shadows.
Uneven muscles is such a creepy detail.
It's so visceral. But the genius of the author here is that these aren't just spooky stories to tell around a campfire. They are, deeply sophisticated psychological tests.
Yeah.
They were written for people navigating incredibly dangerous, volatile environments. Because the author recognized that the most dangerous predators in the world aren't the ones with literal sharp teeth in the forest.
Right, it's not actual wolves.
Exactly. The real dangers are human predators, the toxic systems we find ourselves trapped in, and perhaps most terrifyingly, our own inner greed.
Wow. That framing kind of changes everything about how we read this today. It's a survival manual for human nature.
That's exactly what it is.
So for you listening, we have this bizarre, evocative imagery to unpack today, like a son who meets sudden death while trying to win a massive reward from a snake.
Yeah, that one is intense.
Or this strange tale of someone transformed into a girl who aggressively rejects the sun itself for this dark, frigid cloud. We've got this absolutely chilling description of a predator exhibiting noiseless laughter while riding on the backs of its prey.
The noiseless laughter.
Yeah. And a terrified monkey trapped in crashing waves trying to negotiate with a crocodile. So, I mean, if you were listening to this deep dive and you're dealing with like a manipulative family member, an unbearable corporate structure, or just your own ambition pushing you to the brink, you want to know the bottom line, right?
I want the practical takeaway.
Exactly. What is the overarching core wisdom we are pulling from these bizarre ancient fragments?
Well, if we synthesize the deepest threads running through these texts, the core wisdom is this inescapable, brutal reality of inherent nature.
Inherent nature.
Right. And it operates as a dual lesson. First, you must cultivate the clear-eyed ability to recognize the inherent nature of the entities around you, whether that is a person, an organization, or, an entire societal system.
Okay, so seeing things as they actually are.
Yes. And second, you must possess the immense courage required to accept and honor your own inherent nature, even when the world around you is screaming at right angles to that truth.
Man, that concept of recognizing the nature of others, it brings us straight to the fragment about the frogs, which I gotta say I have not stopped thinking about since I read it.
It sticks with you.
It really does. So the source material describes frogs acting as a, and I quote, vehicle for a predator. The text specifically notes that the frogs are the predator's natural food, yet excellent.
Natural food, yet excellent.
Yeah. But the phrase that made my stomach just drop was this. While the predator is being carried by the frogs, it exhibits what the text calls noiseless laughter.
Right.
I want to pause on that. We have prey acting as a chauffeur for the very thing built to consume them.
It's wild. The psychology embedded in this scenario is just profound. I mean, you have frogs who have somehow negotiated themselves into a position where they are carrying, accommodating, and doing all the heavy physical lifting for their biological predator.
It makes no sense biologically.
No, it doesn't. We have to look at the cognitive dissonance required for the frogs to agree to this. The frogs have convinced themselves they have achieved like a diplomatic victory.
Oh, wow. They believe that proximity and utility equal safety.
Exactly.
Like if I'm a frog, I'm thinking, if I am incredibly useful to this predator, if I anticipate its needs and carry it across the mud, I become indispensable.
Right. It won't eat me because it needs my labor.
Exactly. I am managing the threat through hypercompetence.
Which brings us to the devastating reality of the noiseless laughter. I mean, what is happening inside the predator's mind while it enjoys the ride?
It's definitely not gratitude.
No, it isn't feeling gratitude at all. It isn't reassessing the frog's status from food to friend. That noiseless laughter represents the smug, silent, sociopathic arrogance of a predator who has successfully convinced its prey to volunteer for its own subjugation.
Volunteering for your own subjugation.
Yeah. It is the internal smirk of a bad faith actor who cannot believe how easy it is to exploit you. The text makes a point to remind us that the frogs remain its natural food. The inherent nature of the predator has not shifted 1 degree.
So the core wisdom here is that accommodating your predators does not make you safe. It just makes you convenient.
Exactly. It makes you convenient.
You think you are proving your worth to a hostile force, hoping to earn mercy, and the predator is literally mocking you in silence. The noiseless laughter is the sound of a system or person extracting your energy and your time while privately holding you in complete contempt because you are allowing them to do it.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
You are still on the menu. You are just serving as a free Uber ride before dinner.
That's a great way to put it. The text shatters the illusion of control. We desperately want to believe we can manage toxic people if we just, contort ourselves enough to fit their needs.
If I'm just a little bit better, a little faster.
Right. But the predator's inherent nature is fixed. By accommodating them, you are not changing their nature. You are betraying your own survival instincts. You are burning calories to facilitate your own eventual destruction.
Man, that noiseless laughter implies the predator knows exactly who they are. But it makes me wonder, why do the frogs forget who they are?
Well, that's the tragedy of it.
Yeah. It seems like surviving a predator isn't just about recognizing their nature, but fiercely protecting your own. Did these texts say anything about preserving our own identity under pressure?
They absolutely do.
Because that brings us to the fragment about the transformed girl, which feels like, honestly, a total pivot from the darkness of the frog story.
It really is. This fragment provides a beautiful counter-narrative. We read about someone who has been transformed into a girl, and a powerful figure offers her the ultimate prize. She is offered to the blessed son to marry.
The blessed son.
Right. And in virtually every ancient culture, the sun represents the absolute pinnacle of glory, visibility, power, and universal societal approval. It is the gold standard of success.
To use a modern analogy for you listening, it's like being offered a massive equity stake and the CEO title at a charismatic tech giant, or being handed the most prestigious, high-profile job in your industry.
Exactly.
Everyone in your life, your parents, your peers, society at large, is telling you, you have to take this. This is the blessed son. But she rejects him.
She does. The fragmented text reads, "He is too," followed by her rejection. She doesn't want the sun. Instead, she looks at a cloud. And she declares the cloud is superior.
Superior to the sun.
Yes. And the text specifically notes her reasoning. She prefers the cloud because it is black and frigid.
That is so deeply counterintuitive. I mean, why would you choose the black and frigid cloud over the warm, radiant, blessed sun? Society pathologizes that kind of choice.
Society does pathologize it because society operates on universal metrics of success. But this fragment is a masterclass in radical self-knowledge and inherent nature.
Okay, unpack that.
Well, the sun is what is universally praised.
Yeah.
It is what the collective dictates is the best. But this girl possesses the deep, unshakable wisdom to know that what is universally best is not what is best for her specific biological and psychological makeup.
Right, her inherent nature.
Exactly. Her inherent nature does not crave the scorching heat, the relentless visibility, and the exhausting demands of the sun. Her nature thrives in the dark, the quiet, the cool, the obscured. She craves the black and frigid.
Wait, practically speaking, though, society punishes people who choose the frigid cloud.
Oh, absolutely.
If I turn down the CEO job to go work in a quiet, dark basement archiving rare books, I might not be able to pay my mortgage. My peers will think I've lost my mind or failed. Isn't this ancient advice a bit naive about the economic and social realities of rejecting the sun?
That pushback is entirely valid if we view the sun strictly as financial survival.
Okay.
But the text is exploring the psychological cost of pursuing a nature that contradicts your own. If your inherent nature is that of the cloud, and you force yourself into the orbit of the sun because of societal pressure or economic anxiety, you will eventually burn to ash.
Wow, burn to ash.
The burnout, the depression, the physical toll of living out of alignment with your inherent nature is often far more catastrophic than the social penalty of stepping back.
That makes a lot of sense.
The text argues that true wisdom is having the fortitude to look at the universally praised sun and confidently state, that is not for me. It is giving yourself permission to embrace your own black and frigid cloud, whatever that unconventional lifestyle, solitary hobby, or obscure career path might be.
It's validating the pursuit of authentic alignment over societal applause. Okay, so we've looked at the illusion of control with the frogs and the rejection of the universal best with the girl. Let's move to a scenario where inherent natures violently collide and you find yourself entirely outmatched.
The monkey and the crocodile.
Yes, this fragment is intense.
In this fragment, we have a monkey who is described by the text as terrified. He is trapped out in the great waves with the crocodile. He realizes, and the text is very explicit about this mechanical reality, that he cannot move an inch.
Cannot move an inch.
He is physically powerless. The environment belongs entirely to the predator.
It's the ultimate nightmare scenario. You are in the water, which is the crocodile's domain. The waves are crashing. You have zero structural, physical, or leverage advantage.
Right.
If you fight with brute force, you drown or you get eaten. If you panic, you die faster. So, how does the monkey survive?
He survives through extreme emotional compartmentalization.
Okay, what does that mean in this context?
The text mentions a trick regarding his heart. The core wisdom here is about what you do when you are structurally, systemically trapped and overpowered. When you are in the crocodile's waves, your only survival tool is your intellect.
Your mind.
Exactly. And to access your intellect in a moment of mortal peril, you must completely detach your emotional core, your heart, from the immediate terror of the situation.
Okay, but how does someone actually do that? The biological reality of panic is just overwhelming. Your amygdala is firing, your heart rate is spiking, your body is literally screaming at you to thrash and flee.
Yeah, the physical response is massive.
So how do you separate that somatic response from your intellectual strategy?
You have to essentially construct an internal firewall. You recognize that your physical body is in danger, but you refuse to let the crocodile see your true terror. You must treat your mind as an impenetrable inner citadel.
An inner citadel, I like that.
You negotiate from a place of absolute mental remove. The monkey tells the crocodile a lie about his heart being left back on the shore.
Right.
Metaphorically, he actually does leave his heart on the shore. He does not allow his emotional vulnerability to enter the water. All three of these core teachings require a profound, unsentimental understanding of reality.
This is definitely not a text for optimists or dreamers who believe the universe will just naturally catch them.
No, it's not.
It is a text for survivors.
It's your survival.
Speaking of surviving, let's look at the world these texts came from. To really grasp the weight of these lessons for this deep dive, we need to understand the historical and human context the author was writing in.
It was a very different world.
When I read the vocabulary list from these fragments, it genuinely made my pulse race. We have sharp teeth, uneven muscles, things described as yellow, the constant specter of death, people labeled as wicked, and literal goblins.
Goblins. Yes.
It paints a picture of a world saturated with visceral, omnipresent threat.
For the original audience of these tales, physical threat was an everyday reality. They lived in a world where the forest and the night were not abstract concepts of fear.
Right, they weren't just metaphors.
No, they were literal places where you could be consumed by wild animals or killed by bandits. But the author is using this vocabulary of physical terror as an allegory.
Oh, okay.
The audience would have immediately understood that the real creatures with sharp teeth were rival kings, corrupt magistrates, deceptive merchants, and toxic allies.
It's like they were using the language of primal fear to teach social and political strategy.
Precisely.
The terror you feel when a branch snaps in the dark forest is the exact same hypervigilance you need to apply to a massive business merger or, a fraught political alliance.
Which leads us perfectly into the fragment concerning a specific type of social strategy, the sacred transaction.
The milk and the snake.
Yes. The text tells a story where a person puts out a saucer of milk for a snake, and the person says, "I paid. Be gracious to me." And then they go home. In the morning, they are rewarded.
So, to a modern listener, putting out a saucer of milk for a venomous snake sounds completely unhinged.
It does.
If a venomous snake is in your vicinity, you either call animal control, you kill it, or you move. You don't try to feed it.
Right. But in the ancient world, you couldn't always call animal control, and you couldn't always move.
Oh, that's a good point.
Sometimes the danger is a permanent fixture in your environment, a volatile ruler you cannot unseat, a neighboring tribe that is more powerful than yours, a harsh natural element.
You just have to live with it.
Yes. The social assumption of this era was that you had to establish a fragile ecosystem of mutual respect with dangerous forces just to survive.
So you acknowledge their power, you offer them a small tribute like the milk, and you clearly state the boundary. I paid, now be gracious.
Exact.
It's an act of respect, but also of intense boundary keeping.
The father in this story understands the snake is dangerous. He isn't under the illusion that the snake is his friend.
Right. No noiseless laughter here.
Exactly. But he also understands that if he respects the snake's inherent nature and provides consistent, small value, the snake will yield stability and small rewards.
Nice action.
It is a highly delicate equilibrium. It requires immense patience, discipline, and a deep respect for the volatility of the other party.
We definitely see that equilibrium shatter when human greed gets involved. But first, let's bring all this ancient context into the 21st century.
Let's do it.
Because we aren't dealing with goblins or leaving milk out for cobras, but the psychology here translates flawlessly to our modern realities. Let's start with the modern frog vehicle.
Yes.
I see this dynamic constantly in corporate environments and abusive relationships.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that modern translation. How does the frog and predator dynamic manifest in a contemporary workplace?
Well, imagine you have a boss who is a total predator. They steal credit for your ideas, they belittle people in meetings, they demand impossible hours without compensation.
A classic toxic boss.
Yeah. And you, the employee, decide that your survival strategy is going to be hyper-competence. You decide you are going to do all their work for them.
You become the vehicle.
Exactly. You anticipate their every need. You manage their calendar. You smooth over their mistakes with clients. You literally become the vehicle carrying them to success. You tell yourself, if I make myself indispensable, they won't turn on me. I am managing the boss.
The modern translation of this ancient text tells us that this is a dangerous systemic delusion.
A delusion.
Yes, you are engaging in codependency with a predatory system. The system does not view your hard work as a reason to protect you or promote you. It views your hard work as its rightful entitlement.
Because you are natural food.
You are natural food. And while you are burning out, carrying the weight of a toxic leader, they are looking down at you with that exact same noiseless laughter.
Oh, that makes my skin crawl. They aren't grateful. They're amused by your willingness to be exploited.
They really are.
If you are doing the heavy lifting for someone who treats you badly, you aren't managing them. You are just being their frog.
It's a brutal realization, but a necessary one.
Let's translate the fragment of the snake and the milk into modern terms then, because this feels fundamentally about the danger of extreme extraction, what we might call growth hacking today.
That's a brilliant connection. The father safely trades a small saucer of milk every day for a small, consistent reward. He builds a sustainable transaction over time.
A slow build.
Right. But the text introduces the son. The father sends the son to carry the milk. And the son, looking at the situation, makes what the text calls an effort to win.
An effort to win.
He decides he wants all the treasure at once, and what is the result? The text says he meets death.
So the son is the ultimate private equity archetype.
Oh, absolutely.
He looks at a sustainable, balanced system like a business that has served a community well for 50 years, making a modest profit, and thinks, how can I hack this? How can I disrupt this and extract all the lifetime value right this second? He guts the company, fires the experienced staff, sells off the assets to make a massive Q3 profit. He makes a desperate effort to win everything immediately.
He tries to kill the snake to get the hoard of gold.
Yes. And the consequence of that mentality is systemic death.
When you try to instantly extract maximum value from a complex, delicate system, whether that's aggressively monetizing a loyal user base with intrusive ads until they all leave, or burning out your best employees to hit an arbitrary quarterly target, you aren't winning.
No, you're not.
You are destroying the ecosystem that sustains you. The ancient text is warning us that greed blinding you to the necessity of sustainable boundaries is fatal.
The father understands the wisdom of compounding long-term investments. He builds trust over years. The son's impatience just destroys it in a day.
It really does. Which brings us to the modern translation of the boardroom waves, the monkey trapped by the crocodile.
Yeah. I am picturing a brutal legal deposition against a team of corporate lawyers, or an entrepreneur facing a hostile takeover by a massive conglomerate.
You are out of your depth.
You are in their boardroom, you are in their ways.
You feel that exact sensation for the text. You cannot move an inch. The structural power dynamic is completely asymmetrical against you.
If you show anger, you look unhinged, and they use it to discredit you.
Right.
If you show fear, there is blood in the water, and they press harder. The modern boardroom waves require you to do exactly what the monkey did, withhold your true emotional state.
You construct an avatar of pure, polite, detached professionalism. You do not give the opposition access to your core vulnerabilities.
You leave your heart on the shore.
Yes. You negotiate with facts, with leverage, with calm observation, completely decoupling your internal panic from your external behavior. You realize your mind is the only asset the waves cannot touch, provided you don't surrender it voluntarily.
Man, think about the power dynamics in your own life right now. The moment you stop to audit who you are carrying, you start noticing the noiseless laughter.
You really do. And this brings us to the practical application of these ancient insights. We've explored the philosophy, now let's ground it. Let's approach the frog audit as a mental exercise.
I love the idea of a frog audit. If I'm listening to this deep dive, I need to know how to spot that noiseless laughter in my own life. I'd probably start by auditing my calendar, looking at the last 6 months and finding the one client or boss where I'm doing 90% of the heavy lifting. Is that the right way to approach this?
That is the perfect metric. Look for the energy imbalance. Identify the relationships or situations where you are the primary engine, the vehicle.
Okay.
Then ask yourself the defining question. Is the person or system you are carrying treating you with genuine gratitude and reciprocal care? Or are they taking you completely for granted?
Are they treating you as natural food?
Exactly. Are they treating you as natural food that just happens to be serving a purpose right now? If you discover you are being secretly mocked for your accommodating nature, if your hypercompetence is being used against you to keep you trapped in a subservient role, you must consciously choose to stop moving forward.
You just have to stop.
Set down the burden. Refuse to be the vehicle.
I love framing that as an energy audit.
Right.
Now, regarding the girl rejecting the sun for the cloud, how do we practically apply the concept of embracing your cloud?
It requires deep, quiet reflection on where you are currently forcing yourself to pursue a sun.
Okay.
Where are you exhausting yourself trying to achieve societal prestige, a highly visible leadership role, or a lifestyle that everyone tells you is the dream, but secretly it drains the life out of you?
It's the courage to admit that making partner at the law firm sounds like a death sentence to your soul, even though it's the most prestigious thing you could achieve in your field.
Right. I want to challenge listeners to give themselves permission, based on this ancient text, to be frigid and black. If your authentic power lies in being unconventional, aloof from societal pressure, and obscured from the glaring spotlight, embrace the cloud. Stop apologizing for not wanting the sun.
The friction in your life might just be the friction of a cloud trying to pretend it is a star.
That is beautifully said.
The relief of just letting go of the sun must be immense.
That's life-changing.
Let's look at a practical tool based on the monkey and the crocodile.
Okay.
The question, where is your heart? How does one actively visualize this before walking into a crisis?
You use this question in moments of absolute terror or when you feel a total lack of control. When you are in a situation where you feel you cannot move an inch, a hostile meeting, an aggressive confrontation, a moment of severe anxiety, you must actively mentally relocate your emotional core.
Mentally relocate it.
Yes. You visualize taking your sense of self-worth, your deepest vulnerabilities, and your emotional reactivity, and you place them safely in a strongbox, or leave them high up in a tree on the shore, far away from the waves.
So before you walk into the boardroom, you literally visualize leaving your heart in the car. Exactly. The people across the table only get to interact with your polite, professional, intellectual avatar. They do not get access to your heart. They cannot hurt your core because your core isn't in the room.
This detachment is essential for survival, but,
Yeah.
I anticipate resistance here.
Oh, for sure.
Some of these ancient concepts grate against modern sensibilities. Let's look at the obstacles to growth embedded in this text. Why might a modern listener push back against these ideas?
Well, the biggest obstacle I see is the text's harsh, unsentimental realism regarding unredeemable predators.
Yes,
Modern culture is deeply steeped in therapeutic language and toxic positivity.
we really are.
We are constantly told that everyone is doing their best, that hurt people, and that with enough empathy, communication, and love, anyone can be reformed.
Right.
If someone acts like a snake, the modern impulse is to just offer them enough milk and therapy until they turn into a golden retriever.
That is the cultural narrative.
The idea that some people are fundamentally predatory feels pessimistic and, well, depressing.
It is deeply uncomfortable, and that is why we resist it.
Yeah.
We want to believe in universal redemption because it gives us a profound sense of control.
Oh, wow. Control.
Think about it. If I believe I can fix the toxic person through my own empathy and hard work, I feel safe.
Because it's up to me.
Exactly. The ancient text is a brutal wake-up call. dismantling that sense of control. It asserts that some entities are strictly predatory by inherent nature. They cannot be loved into empathy.
Yeah.
They view your empathy not as a gift, but as a weakness to be exploited.
So to fully accept this text, we have to mourn a fantasy. We have to grieve the fantasy that we can fix everyone.
We have to accept that sometimes a crocodile is just a crocodile, and its only intention is to drown you.
Yeah.
Letting go of the savior complex is a massive, painful obstacle to growth, but it's entirely necessary for your own survival. If you refuse to believe in the crocodile's inherent nature, you will drown trying to teach it to be a vegetarian.
Man, what about the unforgiving nature of greed in the text? The son makes an effort to win and instantly meets death. I feel like modern audiences are conditioned to celebrate aggressive ambition.
Oh, absolutely.
That we have immense cultural leniency toward people who break rules in the pursuit of massive success. The whole ethos of the last 2 decades has been, move fast and break things.
We forgive massive collateral damage if it results in a unicorn valuation.
Exactly.
But the ancient text offers zero forgiveness for breaking the sacred trust of a balanced ecosystem. The sun attempts to extract everything, and the consequence is immediate fatal destruction.
Instant death.
The obstacle for the modern listener is confronting their own impatience and their culturally ingrained belief that more, faster is always better. The text unequivocally states that unchecked extraction is suicide. It challenges the core tenets of modern transactional culture.
It's saying you cannot perpetually hollow out the middle class or burn out your employees or strip mine a resource without eventually the snake biting back. It's an undeniable truth, but a hard one to swallow. This brings us to a critical part of our exploration. We have to exercise wisdom with discernment. We need to distinguish enduring wisdom from ideas that might be limited by the author's ancient setting.
That's vital.
I want to grapple with the ethics of deception in the monkey fragment.
Let's look closely at that. The monkey survives solely by lying to the crocodile about his heart. He uses manipulation and deceit to escape.
That feels like a very slippery slope. Yeah. Are we endorsing a Machiavellian approach to daily life?
No, we really are.
Is the moral of the story simply, deceive people when you're in trouble and you'll be fine? Because I can see how someone could weaponize that advice to be incredibly toxic themselves.
This requires careful, sophisticated nuance. We are absolutely not endorsing universal deception. Honesty and integrity are foundational to a functioning, healthy society.
Right.
What the text is pointing toward is the concept of asymmetric morality, when you are dealing with a bad faith actor who intends to do you harm.
Asymmetric morality, meaning the ethical rules of engagement change depending on the nature of the entity you are dealing with.
You owe honesty to the good faith participants in your life. You owe transparency to your friends, your family, your community. But you do not owe full transparency to a crocodile that has dragged you into the waves and intends to drown you.
That makes total sense.
The crocodile voided the social contract the moment it decided to consume you.
The discernment is knowing the difference between the two scenarios. You have to know when to be the honest father offering the milk in a mutually beneficial transaction and when to be the deceptive monkey dealing with a predator.
Exactly.
You don't use the monkey's tactic on your spouse, and you don't use the father's tactic on a corporate raider intent on destroying your livelihood.
Perfectly stated. Another area requiring discernment is the violence.
Oh, yeah, the violence is intense.
In one of the fragments, the text reads, the Brahmin kicked him. Cut off his wicked.
Right.
The ancient world resolved conflict with immediate, unsparing physical violence. Justice was visceral.
Obviously, we cannot translate that literally. I am not going to advocate that anyone roundhouse kick their toxic boss or take a broadsword to a bad client.
Probably for the best.
So how do we parse this ancient violence for a modern framework?
We must abstract the physical violence into systemic decisiveness. The enduring wisdom is not the physical act, but the decisiveness of the boundary setting.
Decisiveness.
In the ancient world, you cut off the wicked literally. Today, we translate that into aggressive, uncompromising systemic boundaries.
So cutting them off means severing ties completely.
Yes.
Going no contact, blocking access to your life, firing the toxic client without a prolonged, agonizing negotiation, legally protecting yourself with ironclad contracts and enforcing them immediately upon breach.
The text is warning against the danger of half measures. When you identify a truly wicked or predatory force in your life, you do not negotiate with it.
No halfway.
You do not try to rehabilitate it. You execute a decisive, total severance. The violence of the ancient text translates to the absolute finality of your modern boundaries.
I really like that reframing. Let's zoom out as we wrap up our analysis for this deep dive. How do these incredibly specific, strange little fragments connect to the broader stream of human thought?
They connect beautifully.
I see massive parallels here with other wisdom traditions, like the monkey in the waves realizing he cannot move an inch physically but retreating to his intellect. That is pure Stoicism.
It is fundamentally aligned with Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius.
Right.
The Stoics focused heavily on the dichotomy of control. You cannot control the crashing waves. You cannot control the physical power of the crocodile. You cannot control the fact that you are structurally outmatched.
Yeah.
The monkey realizes what the Stoics realized. Your mind, your heart, is the inner citadel. It is the one thing that remains entirely within your control, provided you protect it.
And what about the father offering the daily milk to the snake? That feels deeply rooted in Eastern philosophies regarding nature.
It strongly echoes the Taoist concept of wu-wei, or effortless acting in accordance with the natural flow of things rather than forcing them. The father creates a harmonious, slow, natural accumulation of value.
He's not forcing it.
Right. He respects the natural order and the inherent volatility of the snake.
And the son is the violent rejection of wu-wei. He intervenes to extract everything instantly, which, in Western traditions, is identical to the fable of killing the goose that lays the golden eggs.
Across cultures, humanity has this deep, enduring anxiety about the destructive power of short-term greed. Whether it's a son trying to rob a snake or a farmer cutting open a magical goose, we've been trying to warn ourselves for millennia that trying to hack a complex system for instant wealth destroys the source of the wealth itself.
It's so true. It also makes me think of the scorpion and the frog. The predator riding our frogs with noiseless laughter is the same cross-cultural anxiety.
Oh, undeniably.
In both stories, a frog acts as a vehicle for a deadly predator. The scorpion stings the frog because it is his nature. The predator in our fragment rides the frogs, enjoying the free transit today, knowing they are his food tomorrow.
The inherent nature.
Both stories highlight the deadly folly of trusting known predators to act against their own biology just because you are currently being useful to them.
Human nature has not shifted since these fragments were inscribed on parchment. We are dealing with the exact same inner and outer demons. The predators just wear tailored suits now, instead of lurking in the literal forest.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Think about the systems, the organizations, and the relationships you are currently pouring your energy into.
A little self-reflection.
Yes. The next time you find yourself working incredibly hard to support a system, carrying a heavy burden to keep the peace or ensure another success, take a quiet, detached moment.
Step out of the waves.
Exactly. Listen closely to the underlying frequency of that relationship. Are you hearing genuine gratitude and reciprocal care? Or are you hearing the noiseless laughter of a predator enjoying the ride?
That's the heart of this section. This is Wisdom for the Present, where understanding leads to clarity, and clarity shapes how we see and live. We'll see you in the next episode.